This is part 2 to a 2-part series, so if you haven't seen part 1, I suggest you click on here, right now. Feel the shame. In part 2, I'm continuing on, detailing the gradual height evolution of buildings across modern history. Once industrialization hit, record holders no longer held their titles for centuries. As more structures popped up, so too did the heights. Technology improved, economies boomed, and height exploded from the 19th century all the way to today. So, here we go. I'd like to mention a structure many of you were more than eager to mention the intentional absence of last time, the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower, standing at 1,063 feet, was indeed the tallest structure in the world at the time of its completion at the 1889 World's Fair. Yet just because it was tall didn't mean it was popular. Paris for centuries had been a place of intricate architecture, noble buildings, and in the middle is plopped this big steel structure. The French were not pleased, but that mindset turned around as we know the Eiffel Tower is a universally recognized symbol today of Paris and France. I decided to leave the structure out of part 1 due to the fact that it's not a building and instead a tower. The pyramids were included as they were most notable for their longevity, and the Washington Monument was the first tallest structure on Earth, built for secular reasons. This is nothing against the Eiffel Tower at all. Now going 42 years forward, steel and iron are no longer odd construction tools. They've allowed skyscrapers to become the new kings of height, including the Empire State Building, the icon of New York City. Empire State stands at an impressive 1,454 feet tall. It was so tall, it was unsurpassed in height for almost 40 years, and to this day is the second tallest skyscraper in New York City. Depression architecture. It works. Now within the 40-year reign of the Empire State Building as tallest building, other structures would surpass it, albeit none of them buildings, and none of them particularly notable. This created a new term for buildings, freestanding structures. As communication structures evolved from the days of the horse, telegraph, or yelling down the street, new TV and radio masts were constructed that far exceeded the heights of buildings. While they were technically the tallest structures on Earth, they needed to be supported with wires that spanned the sides, holding it to the ground. I'll only cover a few of these structures, those that greatly surpass previous freestanding structures, and not some like the Griffin Television Tower, which only surpassed the Empire State Building by 100 feet. The KVLY-TV Mast was constructed in 1963, and was the first in history to pass 2,000 feet. Located in North Dakota, it functions as a TV transmission tower. The Warsaw Radio Mast. Constructed in 1974, it reached over 2,120 feet. Located in Poland, it collapsed in 1991, along with something else. And after that, the KVLY-TV Mast regained the honor. Now back to sweet freestanding structures. Ostankino Tower, I probably butchered that, in Moscow, Russia, stands at an impressive 1,772 feet. Finished in 1967, the tower still remains the tallest freestanding structure in Europe. Built to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the October Revolution, which led to the Soviet Union, it functions as a radio and TV tower. But as science tells, the only thing that can beat a bear is a moose, and the prophecy was fulfilled only 9 years later. The CN Tower in Toronto became the tallest freestanding structure at 1,815 feet. An icon of the city, it held the crown until 2010. It remains the tallest freestanding in the Western Hemisphere. The name originally stood for Canadian National Tower, the company that originally built it. It functions as a multi-use communications tower as well as a notable tourist stop. Back to New York City. The World Trade Center's Tower 1 and 2 brought the tallest building record back to the Big Apple at 1,730 feet. These were the king of commercial buildings. What was so impressive about these structures really was the sheer size of them. With an area of 4,300,000 square feet of floor space per tower, these buildings dwarfed all other tall structures. While the building's height stopped at 1,350 feet, the antenna on top gave them the world record. The buildings housed up to 50,000 workers. To put that in perspective, that's the population of Grand Island, Nebraska. And that's a terrible analogy because I don't even know where that is. They weren't just buildings, they were miniature cities, which would explain why they had their own zip code. By the turn of the century, well, you know. Here it would be important to note the key difference in height between spire and building. Neither are used objectively by anybody, so for the purposes of this video, I include spire and total height, as we've mentioned a fair number of structures that are not buildings. Let's not forget the Sears Tower of Chicago. Standing at 1,451 feet, it surpassed the roof of the World Trade Center in 1973. I will not accept the name change to Willis. Originally constructed to be the headquarters of Sears Roebuck, the largest employer of the US at the time. Oh, how times change. 2 antennas were added, one in 1982, and an even taller one in 2003, bringing the total height to 1,730 feet. Something that is interesting is the skyscraper only costs around $800 million in 2016 dollars, whereas many modern structures can easily reach over $2 billion. Sears no longer owns the building, and Willis Group Insurance owns the naming rights, so technically it's the Willis Tower, but it will never be to me. It would be a while before another building surpassed the Sears Tower, as the Petronas Towers reach 1,483 feet. While that does seem shorter than the Sears Tower, it's important to note that the height of structures are often counted by integral architectural features. Spires are considered a part of the building and are used when calculating height, where an antenna, like the Sears Tower, is not core to the architecture. Anyway, the Petronas Towers remain today the tallest twin towers on Earth, iconic to their city of Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. In 2004, the Taipei 101 was complete, making it the tallest building on Earth at 1,671 feet tall. Its roof exceeded the Sears Tower at 1,474 feet. Its name comes from the city it's located in, Taipei, and the number of floors, 101. Clever. In 2009, we saw the creation of Canton Tower in Guangdong, China. It held the record for tallest tower at 1,954 feet. Just 2 years later, though, it would lose this record to Japan. Oh, Japan, always screwing China, with the creation of the Tokyo Skytree, which reaches at 2,080 feet. This also functions as a television and radio broadcast tower. Now, since the millennia began, the tallest buildings and structures no longer were just a Western creation. Today, the new tallest structures are in the Middle East, designed by Europeans for Arab oil tycoons in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. While never the tallest, a notable and best example of this new normal is the Burj Al Bayt, the Royal Clock Towers, at 1,972 feet. Construction took about 8 years and an estimated $15 billion. The structure has an astronomical 16,961,930 square feet of space. It has the largest clock face in the world. It stands near the holiest site in Islam, in Mecca. Functions as a hotel for those making a pilgrimage to the site. The roof height reaches 1,740 feet, almost up to the spire of One World Trade Center. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai is the tallest man-made structure ever created, bringing the title back to the Middle East for the first time since the Middle Ages. It dwarfs even the super tall radio mast of Poland and North Dakota, reaching 2,722 feet tall, although its top floor stops at around 1,918 feet. That is almost 1,000 feet taller than the Royal Clock Tower. It still holds the record for tallest building and structure, freestanding or not. Also, the world's highest restaurant, and functions as a residential building, communication tower, hotel, and more. Its total cost of construction was at $1.5 billion. It's a well-recognized symbol of human achievement, oil wealth, and how technologically advanced humans have came since the days of the pyramids. This is Cody of Geography Hub.